Well, if they don't give us a signal any better than the one we have, we'll just postpone and meet up tomorrow. 'Cause right now we're buffering. And there's nothing I can do about it. Perhaps the notifications are not as instantaneous as we think. And here's a signal. Welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Well, we tease him a lot, 'cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. What have we not seen recently? I did replay that one. Replay that one too. I think it's only two. Well, okay, let's go for it. Just tease him a lot, 'cause they got him on the spot.
It's all in a turkey. Not you, Mr. Fox.
This grand tradition, I am pleased to announce that today's lucky bird and guest of honor is named Peas, along with his alternate named Carrots. The children will understand that. The winner of this vote was decided by a fair and open election conducted on the White House website. This was a fair election. Unfortunately, Carrots refused to concede and demanded a recount, and we're still fighting with Carrots. And I will tell you, we've come to a conclusion. Carrots, I'm sorry to tell you, the result did not change. It won't be entirely a rest. Even though Peas and Carrots have received a presidential pardon, I have warned them that House Democrats are likely to issue them both subpoenas. Nonetheless, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I will be issuing both Peas and Carrots a presidential pardon. Peas, I hereby grant you a full pardon.
Welcome to the Aeon of Horus, the crowned and conquering child, the offspring of the quote-unquote sun god or father god, and the quote-unquote moon goddess or queen mother goddess. This prince, child of the king and the queen, is represented astrologically as Gemini. The offspring, as twins, are children born to a mother. The mother goddess, astrologically, is Taurus. And it did work. Okay. Sorry about that.
It's all in a turkey. Not you, Mr. Fox.
This grand tradition, I am pleased to announce that today's lucky bird and guest of honor is named Peas, along with his alternate named Carrots. The children will understand that. The winner of this vote was decided by a fair and open election conducted on the White House website. This was a fair election. Unfortunately, Carrots refused to concede and demanded a recount, and we're still fighting with Carrots. And I will tell you, we've come to a conclusion. Carrots, I'm sorry to tell you, the result did not change. It won't be entirely a rest. Even though Peas and Carrots have received a presidential pardon, I have warned them that House Democrats are likely to issue them both subpoenas. Nonetheless, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I will be issuing both Peas and Carrots a presidential pardon. Peas, I hereby grant you a full pardon.
Welcome to the Aeon of Horus, the crowned and conquering child, the offspring of the quote-unquote sun god or father god, and the quote-unquote moon goddess or queen mother goddess. This prince, child of the king and the queen, is represented astrologically as Gemini. The offspring, as twins, are children born to a mother. The mother goddess, astrologically, is Taurus, and her husband, or the father god in Egyptian mythology, the truth is her brother would be Osiris. The astrological equivalent of Osiris would be Aries. So you should expect many tricks in the age of a trickster god, as Horus is the true equivalent of the offspring of the false father and false mother gods, not Thoth. You've been tricked. So, what a season for tricks. It's a trick that we've had many presidential turkeys offered up to the president, true, but how many times have we had two? And it's been since the W. Bush administration that these turkeys have been pardoned, because there was protests nearby the White House during the time of Bush's reception of the traditional turkey, which is a tradition dating back, the tradition dates back to the 1800s. But it was during this administration that Bush, by advice from his counselors, because no president comes up with their own ideas and policies and enforces them. They are figureheads who are fed a narrative and who are given things to say and do according to the calculations of their counselors. And so the counselors, for whatever reason, decided to honor the requests of nearby animal rights protesters, and they began to pardon turkeys in the George W. Bush administration. Interestingly enough, this tradition has been carried on, but in 2018 we had a very odd turn of events, in hindsight, of course, as we look back at it, when then President Donald Trump, who is at the time of this recording still president, announced that there was going to be some problems between the two turkeys because one didn't like the election results, wanted a recount, and refused to concede. Predictive programming, indeed. It was also curious to find clues in how this was all being defined and covered by the mainstream media, so-called news. They showed these two turkeys walking the red carpet and also being pampered in the very famous or notorious Willard Hotel next to the White House. Though the news has always covered this tradition, there was something different about the coverage this time. I wondered why, and so I began to look into the history of the Willard, which is rather storied. So much so that I found the whole thing a bit too lofty and high-end for my taste, so I had to call in my brother Jalsfree and get his take on it. I will have to soon be getting about, my friend Theodore, but I do indeed thank you for the invitation. I do not want to wear out my welcome. I will, however, oblige you this time, as I am probably the most qualified person to speak upon the Willard, as I've stayed there a number of times in my youth, gallivanting about in the streets of Washington, D.C. Back, of course, when the city wasn't so chocolate and it was rather safe to do so. I digress. Why, the Willard is world renowned, my dear. You'll even look upon the official White House website and find quite an extensive story about its history and its distinct connection to the Civil War. That's right, the Willard is not only known as a place where many important and notable stories surrounding the war occurred, but also it is known to be even, some say, haunted, such as Ulysses S. Grant. Why, it is rather safe to say that the Willard and the Civil War go hand in hand, and their histories are inseparable. So I did find it rather dubious that these two turkeys would be allowed to flock about inside of these rather palatial rooms. Oh, my word. Surely its founder, Henry Willard, would be mortified. You can read up much more on the Willards' distinctive and very dignified family history, if you'd like to do so. But this gentleman likes for me to look at the words, and the meaning of the words in Willard means brave or strong, or the will of the Allard, or of the earth. Hence the Willard as a symbol for worldly success, my dear. And here from the White House's own official site, you'll see quite a bit of memorabilia concerning the Willard and its connection to the Civil War. Why, the fire that happened at the Willard happened to provide the Civil War with its first official casualty. On the Union side, that is. Quite dubious indeed when we consider the fact that many think of the United States as being on the brink of a new Civil War. Coincidentally, it coincides, it's neither here nor there. 'Twas a member of the D.C. Fire Brigade. Why, yes, it was Freda Elmer Ellsworth who would become the first Union casualty of note in the Civil War again, officially. And indeed, the Willard has a very storied history, but most all of its stories center upon the idea of the Civil War. You see, the Willard and the Civil War go hand in hand, and the very idea of having two turkeys stay in a room had to have some symbolic connection to the Civil War. I would gather that. It also has a rich symbolism in division, as Joseph Willard himself fell in love with a passionate rebel. Yes, betraying his own feelings for his Union. Because of love, yes, the very power of love, caused for him to fall in love with a rebel spy. Twinning, equal opposites, and duality indeed. Thank you, Sir Jalsfree. 2020 has indeed been the year of duality. 2020, we should call it. Twin T is etymologically connected to twin. Simply look at its spelling if you can't simply hear it by saying it. It is twin tens, two of a thing. 10, in mystic numerological terms, can be seen as a symbol of authority, of the start of something, as in 1, from nothing, as in 0, or 1 and 0, or 10. The on and off in binary code resembling the idea of Alpha and Omega. In Hebrew, the number 10 is Yod, which also represents God. Two sides. Everything this year has been about two sides. Liberals and Democrats versus conservatives, Republicans. Two narratives. The truth about Roni versus your uncommon sense. Two ways of life. The new normal world versus the old normal world that's passing away. 2 phases of the pandemic: the Phantom Menace stage, where nothing was popping, and the Attack of the Clones stage, where something different will be occurring. And most disturbingly, 2 jive turkeys and 2 funky presidents. Have mercy. It happened before in the Civil War. 2 presidents.
Look, this was part of a pre-planned Trump train, a parade of hundreds of vehicles. Some of them have already hit the freeways. And many people, yes, indeed, have heard the news, the projection of Joe Biden as the next president, and they frankly just don't believe it. They believe that there has been widespread fraud. They pair it with the president and the campaign. Someone's saying, stop the seal. Why do you say that? Why do you say stop the seal?
In the middle of the night, a guy that stays in his basement, that has nobody show up, has absolutely no energy when you have 60,000 people with 90-some miles of Trump train, that this guy won. So the ballots show up in the middle of the night when everybody's gone to sleep. And magically, oh, definitely, magically, they're enough to push him ahead of Trump. Trump was ahead 700,000 votes in Pennsylvania in the middle of the night. Biden, and here's the interesting thing, the thing that's really telling is those ballots, they're only filled in for Biden. They're not filled all the way in, and they're all the same, exactly the same.
I hear your point. I hear your point. Absolutely. So this is the kinds of concerns that we have heard in the days after the election, Adrian, in terms of people convinced that there has been an election fraud here. That the mantra is that the election has been stolen. So not only do they not believe Joe Biden will be the next president of the United States, they believe that this election essentially is being completely unfairly run.
Don't miss the point. They're hoping you do. And I'm praying you don't.
And that it is stacked against Donald Trump. Over the course of the last 12 hours, we've seen conspiracy theorist Alex Jones come out and make all sorts of pronouncements about the same sort of thing. I think this speaks to the division in this country. We're going to see a lot more of it, particularly in this very divided state. They're still counting here. Just 20,000 votes separating the two. Joe Biden has a slight edge. But, it's going to continue counting here. And frankly, the results being announced now amongst this crowd, among tens of millions of Americans, they frankly just don't believe it. So what happens next? And yes, many people will be asking, are people in this crowd armed? Yes, they are. We haven't seen any violence, Adrian, in the time we've been here. But yeah, many people are armed today.
All right, David, thank you very much.
Not my president! Not my president! Not my president! Impeach! 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 Impeach!
A blue and white collar lungs right down the middle.
So close to having our first ever woman president, and we have a guy that's a white nationalist, and he's currently leading in the polls and in winning, and it's just disgusting to me. And I've seen this happen with Brexit, and I've seen this happen around the world, and it's just so saddening to me that this could possibly happen to our nation.
I'm definitely not proud of the decision, but I think we just need to, like every election, come together and, move forward and do what's best for the nation.
I'm feeling pretty shocked, honestly, because I didn't think Trump was going to win. I don't think anybody really did. I don't know. I've always kind of believed the polls are always right, so they're not.
Today's political climate is eerily similar to the climate which gave birth to the first Civil War. An uber-conservative South in that case versus a North that was embracing the progressive and abolitionist tone that became synonymous with a more liberal and left-leaning North, to summarize it in the simplest terms. Many today still uphold the traditions of the Confederate mind state, even as the Civil Rights Movement gave the South and North opportunities to outwardly appear more open to new ways and ideologies of inclusion and desegregation, even if it was only surface. And that surface level illusion was not a strong foundation upon which to build a nation. And as for the 2 turkeys that were president at the time, they both felt strongly for the Union. Although Jefferson Davis believed it was constitutionally possible for a state to secede, Abraham Lincoln was against slavery, but he believed it should be contained where it was. Davis, known to be a particularly kind master, quote unquote, believed it was essential to the Southern economy, and it was. In the play Necessary Sacrifices, the plot centered around the idea that Frederick Douglass actually confronted Abe Lincoln about his prejudiced views. Also, a type of revisionist history has given us the misguided impression that Abe and the North were all on code with the ideas of equality and justice for all that Negro writers and thinkers such as Frederick Douglass and other abolitionist notables wrote about. They were not all on code with equality for blacks. Lincoln was not in favor of racial equality. He was racist and prejudiced, as his writings expose. Lincoln wanted to keep slavery in the South ideally. Ultimately, he is said to have had no preference toward Negroes, but would do whatever would be best for the entire nation, including enslavement. There was no way, reportedly, that he could make both sides happy, and the economic power base of the South would have to be either abolished or controlled. A lot of folks, especially so-called black folks, don't know about this quote. Lincoln said, "I will say that I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of bringing about in any way the social and political equality of the white and black races." The crowd applauds. That I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of making voters or jurors of Negroes, nor of qualifying them to hold office, nor to intermarry with white people. And I will say in addition to this, that there is a physical difference between the black and white races, which I believe will forever forbid the two races living together on terms of social and political equality. And inasmuch as they cannot so live, while they do remain together, there must be the position of superior and inferior, and I, as much as any other man, am in favor of having the superior position assigned to the white race. Unquote. And history has been irrationally especially kind to both men, and also to key members on both quote-unquote sides of the Civil War. The Civil War Museum has been noted as more of a memorial to Confederate President Davis. One of the many reasons that the Confederate flag presently flies so proudly in certain areas of the U.S., especially in the South, is due to an underlying sympathy and empathy with not only the Old South, but also with the sentiments of Lincoln. Confederate sympathizers ignorantly and disingenuously used the Bible to justify slavery, twisting scripture and using it against the very people that so much of it is actually centered around. To this day, some of these same tactics fuel the fires of division and dissent, almost as if some entity was duplicating a strategy of divide and conquer that proved successful almost 2 centuries ago.
He was so decrepit.
So those on one side of the political aisle saw Jefferson Davis as a quote-unquote savior figure, and those on the other side were duped into seeing dishonest Abe as Christ-like. Not unlike the mental and spiritual political divide we see today. Some historians say that the two presidents were so similar, in fact, that a crazy conspiracy theory arose that suggests that they may have been one and the same, but I digress. Slow Joe and the Don are very different in many respects, especially in their thinking, quick wit, and cunning speech departments, but both are ingrained with and servants to the truly powerful, wealthy elite, Psalms 2 and 2 controllers behind closed doors. Is it possible that with so much at stake, there may have been dirty dealings behind the scenes? Could powerful, influential, and wealthy men, both Southerners and Northerners alike, work together to concoct a narrative of divide and conquer, all as a strategy to integrate the Negro into the up-and-coming age of new industry? A Hegelian plot, one that was not dependent upon agriculture, an industry not based on cotton, but an industry where semi-skilled and trained laborers would be needed who would fit the requirements necessary to progress in a new age. Was Lincoln essentially collateral damage and a pawn to be played and then even sacrificed within a game so much bigger than him? Politics on the presidential level is always chess, never checkers. And they knew a new age required a different and more efficient type of slave, a new slave. Understanding the Hegelian principles that our control is governed by, it's quite possible that there really wasn't two sides. Is this a myth? Or was it a controlled opposition play from way back in the day? That nowadays we say was the Civil War? Are they doing what was once done before? Meeting in secret and giving a secret handshake behind a closed door. These two turkeys, jive turkeys, lying politicians, two presidents. Is this what the true rulers of the earth have in store? To run the same jive game that they ran before? Politics, polyticks, and fleas, carrying lies and disease. Very interesting, because we know that these men, that they stand up before us as opposing forces, are always members of secret societies, brotherhoods, and fraternal orders. And they get their orders from the very top of the pyramid down to those of us who represent the bottom bricks, the foundation on the ground. It's one of the oldest tricks around. Both want to stab us with the jab. Is there any way I can get a pardon from that? The focus on these two turkeys and the pardoning this time around makes you have to look back at what happened in 2018. The political joke that the jokester, the joker, the trickster, the president Hermes spoke about the possibility of one turkey not wanting to concede. Isn't that interesting? I think it's interesting and rather dubious indeed. So you do your own research into the turkeys. Look into the Willard and the spirits of the Willard, a haunted hotel. Were these turkeys there at the Willard Hotel as some sort of ritual in line with brujeria practices or some sort of sorcery? What happened to the one that was not pardoned? Was he cooked? Or was he sacrificed in a ritual that was very voodoo-like? You be the judge. Stranger things have happened, and the Willard Hotel is a hotel with a history that's surrounded with sacrifice and the haunting of spirits. Very interesting, and I believe beyond the realm of coincidence. Yes, it is a very historic hotel, but most of its history centers around the Civil War. Now, you can't make this up, and I don't really need much more, but let's look around and see what else can be found. Bearing in mind that the devil likes to give you the illusion of freedom, as well as to flip and turn things upside down. He must be getting a kick and a duping delight out of offering you either a fool or a clown. because after you see this, you'll have to wonder just how long they're going to keep JoJo's or Slow Joe's character around.
Look, here's the deal. Let me say this simply and clearly. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by go. You know the thing. You know how we talk about it. Are we the people, folks? We gotta. It's just. Yeah. But you gotta. I mean, we gotta reassure. Look, here, my message to everybody I talk to is play the radio. Make sure the television. Excuse me. Make sure you have the record player on at night. The phone. Make sure the kids hear words. I got hairy legs that turn turn blonde in the sun, and the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. You know, there's a, during World War II, you know, where Roosevelt came up with a thing that, you know, was totally different than it's called, he called it the, you know, the World War II, he had the War Production Board. Where we open up, hello, darkness, my old friend. $1.2 billion in overtime was denied for hourly workers who were not unionized. $1.2 billion. So you go ahead and you stack spaghetti sauce at a store and in a supermarket. You control the guy or the woman who brings out the carts on a forklift. What happens? They make you management.
So would you like to say a couple words?
Am I supposed to speak now, or is Karen supposed to speak? I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble here. Oh, it's me. Okay. Well, you know, there's that great philosopher, and he talked about Jill puts notes up on my mirror when she wants me to, where I shave, to get messages across to me. And what presidents say matter.
The former vice president suggests the black community lacks diversity of thought.
We choose truth over facts.
Biden complimented the town before incorrectly identifying which state he was speaking in.
Joe Biden forgot he was in a video live stream and abruptly walked off camera.
And I spent an hour and a half today on the telephone. I mean, on what we're doing right now on camera.
Biden making a series of unusual rhetorical detours at the town hall dedicated to health care.
Imagine what would have happened if, God forbid, Barack Obama had been assassinated after becoming the de facto nominee.
The first sort of mainstream African American who was articulate and bright and clean and nice looking guy.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump.
If you notice, I have more people supporting me in the black community that have announced for me. The only African-American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate. A whole range of people. My point is...
That's not true. The other one is here.
I have a record that is second to none. The NAACP has endorsed me every time I've run. I mean, come on.
The NAACP does not endorse candidates for political office at any level.
How many unsafe bridges you still have here in the state of Iowa? And I was just in Ohio because they have more. It is important that Iowa and Nevada have spoken, but look. I love this place. Look, what's not to like about Vermont in terms of the beauty of it, and what a neat town. Look, tomorrow's Superstar Tuesday, and I want to thank you all. I tell you what, I'm rushing ahead, aren't I? Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Kingswood Community Center. Actually, that's the one down I used to work. As a joke. You didn't know where we were. Anyway, business is realizing they've got to price in the car. They have to price in the price of carbon And so there's so much, I think, anyway, look, one more question here. Is it too late to address the climate change?
Well, I'm so glad to hear you talking about that as eloquently as you do, Joe.
You know, the rapidly rising I don't know. We cannot let this, we've never allowed any crisis from the Civil War straight through to the pandemic of 17, all the way around 16. We have never let our democracy take second fiddle. We can both have a democracy and elections and at the same time correct the public health. COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, it's taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives, when you think about it. We have to take care of the cure. That will make the problem worse no matter what. I tell you what, I'm so darn proud. And those poor people who have lost, anyway.
Have you been tested for some degree of cognitive decline?
I've been tested and I'm constantly tested.
Have you taken a cognitive test?
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Wait, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Anyway, I am very willing to let the American public judge my physical and mental my physical as well as my mental fitness.
Your husband has been known to make the occasional gaffe.
Nope.
The gaffe issue is over because...
Over. So over.
By the way, this is my little sister, Valerie, and I'm Jill's husband. Oh, no, you switched on me. This is my wife. This is my sister. They switched on me. All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right. It's Chris, but anyway.
Chris. Why the hell would I take a test? Are you a junkie?
What do you say to President Trump, who brags about his test and makes your mental state an issue for voters?
Well, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. I just can't figure the guy. It's like watching a yo-yo. I shouldn't have said it that way. It's like watching.
It feels that way. I want to ask you.
Donald Trump does pose an extra threat to this. It's not hypothetical. Why doesn't he just act like a president? Wait, you're getting nervous, man. Look, you're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
A lot of guys want this. I'm not worried.
That's a stupid way to say it.
You know, Donald Trump was asked on...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, probably best I don't.
Well, Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden's getting attention for using a teleprompter before answering a voter's question.
There's 60 million Americans saying that they would vote for a union today, and I would like to know.
Okay. Looks like it stopped buffering, but you see this little red block over here? That red block should be green. Green means a good signal. Red block is a bad signal. So let's just try to give it a second. Okay, we're going to just call it a night because we're out of hotspot. Can't get any more right now. And we'll just come back tomorrow, okay? So check your notifications. Oh, well. Check your notifications, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night for a reading. Sometime tomorrow evening. Time to be announced. Thank you all again. Thank you all again for joining in. But yeah, we've got a bad signal, and I can't do anything about it right now, okay? So tomorrow we'll have a nice fresh one, Lord willing. Good night, everybody. God bless you.